Next up we have Shaman. We're starting with the Prime. Lady Vaj. Vaj. I have no idea how to pronounce that. It's a 3 mana 4/3 spell damage +1. So pretty good, you know. Initial body, pretty good. That's right, I'll shuffle a primal like usual, and the primal is 7 mana for a 5/4 spell damage +1. Battlecry, draw 3 spells, reduce their cost by 3. Now, this may be a bit controversial, but I feel like this is the weakest of the primes. Because this is very, very unreliable, right? First you need to draw the first version, then you need to draw this, then you need to play it on 7, then you need to have still 3 relevant spells in your deck by that point. And if they're big spells, that's your whole turn, you did nothing. If they're small spells, like you went through a lot of trouble for not that good of a payoff. So yeah, this one's a bit of a tough sell. Be it in standard, I mean, in arena it's a 3 mana 4/3. Like, it's an okay card, especially with Shaman having some really good spells. You know, spell damage +1 on that is pretty solid. Even if you don't get to the second part, still okay. But in standard, I mean, you really need a deck dedicated to it and built around it. And even then, I mean, it's not an immediate effect, so not very exciting, at least at face value. I may be proven wrong, but I just don't see the potential in this one as I do in some of the others. Next up we have the Lurker below. 6 mana 6/3, Battlecry deals 3 damage to an enemy minion. If it dies, repeat on one of its neighbors. So I think this is chainable, right? Like, you can deal 3, if that kills it, deal 3 to the other, and so forth and so forth. Still, it has the, you know, the variance of going the way you don't want it to, because the way it's worded, I think you can even go right or left, like it's not guaranteed which way it's gonna go. And sadly it can't hit face, has fire elemental can. It's not an elemental, it has less health. So this is a very situational card, I feel. Like, more often than not, I think you're happier just playing a fire elemental over this, because it's better statted. Like, if the meta is very swarmy, like if there are a lot of small minions, then I can see this being played as a reasonable AoE that leaves a body behind. Like, in that sense, it's pretty good. But yeah, it's very meta dependent. So Shaman got a bit screwed there in terms of their legendaries. Hopefully it gets better from now on. Okay, and the next card is a weapon. It's a 5 mana 4/2 weapon called Bogspine Knuckles. After your hero attacks, transform your minions into random ones that cost 1 more. So it's an evolve effect. You can use it 2 times. You know, you can control when you use it, but it's very expensive, right? 5 mana means you're probably not getting any minion on the board that turn. So it's very slow, and if your opponent has a big taunt in the way, you're gonna have to take a lot of damage in order to evolve your board. So this feels very clunky. I'm not too confident about this card seeing play. And plus the evolve effect, you know, it's random. You're not guaranteed to get a better board sometimes. And in those situations, this is really backbreaking, so this is a very risky card. In arena, you might be okay picking this, you know, it's a pseudo removal, like 5 mana 4/2, like Shaman has better option, but you may not get offered them, so you may be okay picking this. And it can have an upside, a game-winning upside, so it's a pretty decent arena card. Next up, we have Shattered Rumbler. 5 mana, 4/6 elemental. Don't think that's relevant anymore. Battle Cry, if you cast a spell last turn, deal 2 damage to all minions. All minions, not all other minions. So does this trigger... Does this hit itself? It shouldn't, right? But it's just worded weird. Maybe it's the way the battle cries work. That they still trigger, and then the minion comes into effect. You know, it's like the mage secret, the polymorph one, where the minion still gets to play the battle cry and only then is transformed into the ship. So maybe it works like that, and it doesn't deal the 2 damage to itself. So it's a 5 mana 4/6 that has the upside if you have a conditional 2 damage to all minions. I'd say this is pretty solid in arena, right? In standard, I mean, again, if we're in a very swarmy meta, but it's a decent removal that leaves you a pretty significant body, right? So in a mid-range to control deck, sure, I can see this being run. Especially if you can tutor it somehow, or you have some very cheap spells you played before. Okay, it has some potential for sure. Next up we have Torrent. 5 mana spell, deal 8 damage to a minion. Costs 3 less if you cast a spell last turn. So, Shaman in the past had a 2 mana deal 8 to a minion for 2 with an overload of 3. So this is basically that, but in reverse. It's a pretty good removal in arena. In standard, I doubt you would want to run this card. Like, it's very situational. Yeah, this is another of those very meta dependent, but I don't think it makes the cut. Like, you would much rather have Hex at that point, and you don't really want to have too many of these effects, I think. Maybe wrong, maybe you have one of, but just don't think it's very reliable. Now this guy, however, this is an interesting one. It's Bogstroke Clacker, 3 mana 3/3, Battle Cry, transform adjacent minions into random minions that cost 1 more. Pretty decent card. Pretty decent upside. If you have a somewhat of an aggro deck, you can do some interesting trades first and then evolve your minions, heal them that way. It's a pretty good tempo card. Like, it's a 3 mana 3/3. It's not the end of the world. You have to play with nothing else. So pretty solid. I like it. I think it's one of the better Shaman cards this expansion. So pretty decent. And then we have Vivid Spores. 4 mana spell, give your minions Death Rattle, resummon this minion. So it's a very powerful effect, but it's a very slow card. You kind of need to be winning on the board in order to play this card. And that's a bit hard with the current Shaman arsenal. Like, you can play this in Galakron Shaman, but do you really need to? I mean, Shudderwalk's rotating out, but I mean, your opponent either deals with the 8/8s or they lose the game, so I don't think your 8/8s are gonna be around in order for you to use this spell that often and get much benefit out of it. So I don't know. It seems like a really tough build around card. You know, not too sure about this one. Even in arena, I don't think Depends. If you have a very mid-range deck, this can definitely be a swing turn for you if you have a board, but it's very risky. I personally would experiment with it a bit, but we'll see. I'm not too convinced about the viability of this one. Next up, we have a pretty good one. It's a 3 mana 3/4 elemental. It's Marsh Spawn. Battlecry, if you cast a spell last turn, discover a spell. So really good upside. One of the better, of this cycle of if you play the spell last turn, do something. This is probably the best one out of them all. Really solid minion, really good upside. You're probably playing a lot of spells as Shaman, so this will usually trigger. So very, very good card. Even in Arena, 3 mana 3/4, you can never go wrong with that. In Standard, pretty good card still. One of the better ones for sure for Shaman. Pretty interesting one. This is a pretty interesting one too. Serpent Shrine Portal. 3 mana, spell, deal 3 damage. And summon a random 3-cost minion with Overload 1. Overload in Shaman over the years has been sometimes an upside, and deal 3 summon a 3 cost is pretty good. So this can even be influenced by spell damage, not the 3 cost, but the damage itself. So I think this is a pretty good card, pretty good arena card, definitely. Like, this is a pretty good arena card. It's like a Bat Rider, but cheaper. So awesome there. And finally we have Totemic Reflection. 3 mana, spell, give a minion +2/+2. If it's a totem, summon a copy of it. I mean, you totem on 2, and on 3 you have 2/4s. That's okay, but more often than not, your opponent's just gonna trade into your totem since it's free. Like, you can punish bad plays, but not very often. It's just a +2/+2 on any other minion, no other effect. It's a tough sell. In Standard, no. In Arena, maybe. Even still, there are better cards out there for sure. So, not too sure about this one. Okay, and that was Shaman. Shaman, not so sure how I feel about it. Like, has some pretty good 3s. So I think they'll be alright. But I think Shaman is still gonna have to rely on Galakron in order to stay relevant. Probably. Especially with losing Hagatha. That's a big hit for the control hopes of many Shaman player. But we'll see. It's probably not gonna see a lot of Shaman other than the occasional Galakron Shaman, sadly. I may be wrong. Hopefully I'm wrong.